Hello and welcome to the Horror Boys. I'm Steven.
And I'm Tanner.
What you just heard there was an intro by my father. He wrote it just for us. It's pretty lovely. I'm a fan of it.
Yeah. It's really great of your dad to do that. I think it really matches the sort of aesthetic this podcast is going for and the type of movies we watch. So if you like that intro, you'll probably like the movies we're covering.
And if you hated that intro, you should still listen to this.
I mean, if you hated that intro, you clearly don't like any music, because, yeah.
That's probably true.
Well, I mean, that's John Carpenter-esque, and who could hate a John Carpenter soundtrack?
That's a good point. Well, did you hear the one on Mars, Ghosts of Mars, that score? It's not great.
I don't know. I feel like the film's probably bad, but...
No, the movie's pretty good. Like, that movie gets a lot of hate, but it's fun.
See, I thought you'd defend the soundtrack, but not the movie.
No, I'm pretty sure he teamed up with Anthrax to do the soundtrack. Or something along those lines. So it's like, it's not terrible. It's just, the movie is Ice Cube fighting Mars zombies, and that's fun.
I mean, that sounds... I mean, what else could you possibly want? I don't know, man. This soundtrack looks amazing. It's got Anthrax, Steve Vai, Buckethead.
Buckethead? Alright. We should watch Ghosts of Mars soon. That'll happen.
Why the heck was Buckethead on that soundtrack?
I don't know. It'd be cool if Slint was on it. I feel like they'd just be, like, in there for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, we threw Slint on this bad boy.
What did they kill it in? Was it Kids or Bully?
Yeah, Kids.
It was Kids?
Bully has Last Call by the ODB. That's how I found that movie. That's pretty great.
Bully also had...
that Fatboy Slim song?
Yeah, Fatboy Slim in the end. And it was... that closing track is amazing.
The guy's getting arrested and the kid's in the Dare shirt. Oh, man. Yeah. That's a good movie.
I kind of want to rewatch that. Maybe we should do that this, too.
We should.
But,
So Tanner and I, like, 2 years ago, we watched The Grand Illusion at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, while texting, because Tanner lives in St. Louis, and I live all over. And then we just started doing that more and more, and we started realizing that we were no longer watching, like, good movies. For a while, we were trying to watch, like, the Criterion Collection in order, but then it was like, I have a Shudder account, let's just watch whatever's on Shudder.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, we're just going to start a podcast. Why not? And Tanner listens to like 1 million podcasts a day, so.
I definitely do listen to 1 million podcasts a day. The one that's...
No, really, like, how many do you listen to?
4 or 5. Only one religiously, though, and that's Mysterious Universe. I'll give them a shout-out, just for fun.
They're pretty gold.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
But, yeah,
sure.
I think the medium's a great thing, and I didn't listen to podcasts until, like, maybe 2 years ago, but it really hit me hard. I caught the bug.
You're a bug chaser?
Yeah.
I started listening to podcasts when I was a freshman in high school, Mrs. Craig's class, because I'd get in trouble if I was on my phone, but I didn't do homework. And so it was like I could have my earbuds in, but that was it. So I would listen to the Game Informer podcast and this thing called Legacy Music Hour, which was just like, okay, we're going to play 16-bit JRPG music or like Michael Jordan tracks from the 16-bit era, and you're going to enjoy them.
Wait.
And I did.
That was a thing?
Yeah, it was the thing.
Is that still
Michael
around?
Jordan games?
No,
or
I mean that
podcast?
podcast, yeah.
No, it ended. They ran out of stuff.
I guess I could see that happening.
Yeah. And I think they also might have, like, there's a fair use issue or something. I don't really know.
Yeah.
I stopped listening for a bit, and then I was going to listen, and then it was like, oh, no, this is gone now.
That's a shame.
Rest in peace. That was a good podcast.
Yeah.
I remember I had, like, bad earbuds, and people could hear what I was listening to. They'd hear me listening to these, like, really loud 16-bit tracks.
Yeah.
You're like, what's wrong with you? Quite a bit. I mean, that's a clear sign of autism.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons we started this podcast is because I don't think either of us have really found, like, the movie podcast that we can, like, sort of latch on to.
That's true.
Like, I mean, I listened to How Did This Get Made, But even that's like sort of starting to lose me because all they do is like live shows now, and those don't ever like translate as well to me.
Well, you keep making me watch the movies they cover, and
Yeah,
then like I start listening to the episodes, and I'm like, I don't think this was worth it. Like I'm
yeah.
a fan of the podcast, but
Well, I mean, that's what really just killed me with I think Howling 2 because the guests just didn't even watch the movie, and I was
yeah, she
just
was like, I found this on YouTube, and it was like not even a full screen rip. It was like they were showing it like 10 pixels of it so that they wouldn't get copyright claimed. I
yeah.
was like, what? Who are you? What's happening here?
And I mean, I sat through that movie. All of their guests should, if I'm gonna listen to the podcast. So yeah, that was
That movie
frustrating.
was glorious. We should do a Howling 2 episode just to
Well,
really throw it back at him.
we should do an episode with all of, well, like maybe the first 4 Howling movies because we gotta watch Marsupials.
Oh yeah, I have 3 through 6 on Blu-ray. I just bought them. It was like $15.
Well, let's watch 3 and 4 soon.
For sure. I have a friend named Ryan. He's pretty cool. I think he'd be a good guest for that. Maybe we'll be able to get him on.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Speaking of which, I haven't like contacted this guy or anything,
Mhm.
but I remember today while recording a High School Musical, I remembered that I am friends with one of the camera operators on Splinter, which is a B movie we both really like.
Oh yeah. Oh.
So I was like,
shoot.
maybe we should do an episode on that and get him as a guest for a bit. That could be fun.
Yeah. No, Splinter is one of my favorite like things I've just randomly caught on the Sci-Fi Network.
For sure.
Oh,
Yeah, no, as
yeah.
far as like the type of stuff they're just going to show at like 3 p.m., it's one of the best ones, I
Oh
think.
yeah. Yeah.
That and Tremors 2.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Tremors 2's lit. Like it's every bit as good as the first, if not better. 3 and 4 are bad. I never watched 5.
well, I mean, and I also always love the. I missed it this year, but the Leprechaun marathon they have on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, we should cover this. Did you see they're doing a direct sequel to the first?
The first one?
Yeah, they're doing a direct sequel to the first movie, like they're doing with Halloween. Like anyone cares at all about Leprechaun continuity, or that there's anything appealing about those movies outside of Warwick Davis.
Well, is Jennifer Aniston coming back?
I don't think so. I really doubt it, because she'd have to go back to her pre-nose job days.
Then no one cares. There's something just kind of fun about the ones in the hood, though.
Yeah, 5 and 6 for sure. A lot of people say Leprechaun Back to the Hood is the second film, and that's wrong. And I'm gonna be as pretentious as I can be about that.
Wait,
You know
that's
why?
wrong.
Because no, it is the 6th film, I believe. Yeah, because you have Leprechaun, Leprechaun 2, Leprechaun 3, and I'm sure those both have subtitles. 3 is the casino one. Then you have 4, which is Leprechauns in Space, which does a lot with a measly budget. And then you have 5, which is Leprechaun in the Hood. And then the director of that film wanted to do another one that took place on an island or something.
Uh-huh.
But Leprechaun in the Hood made so much money compared to the others. Although, it is worth noting that Leprechauns 4 in Space, maybe it was 3, was the most successful movie on VHS of the year it was released.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, like those movies made a ton of money.
Those movies are, like, made for VHS. They are, like, what you grab.
Oh yeah. No, it's like that and It were the 2 movies kids ended up seeing and like actually really scared them as children.
Yeah.
Which is funny because neither of them are scary at all, honestly.
Well, I really want to rewatch Leprechaun in the Hood just because, I mean, Ice-T is amazing in that. As he is amazing in everything.
Is that him in that?
Yeah, he's the main pimp guy with, like, the magic thing.
Oh, also shout out to Surviving the Game.
Oh, yeah. And also shout out to Johnny Mnemonic. Actually, less of a shout out to that, but maybe a shout out just for Ice-T and Dolph Lundgren and Johnny Mnemonic.
Did we watch another Ice-T movie recently?
It feels like we did. He was just in so much in the 90s.
Did you know that he's a kangaroo human in 2 separate 90s films?
A kangaroo human?
Yeah, Warriors of Virtue, which has Michael J. Anderson, the dwarf from Twin Peaks, in it,
Uh-huh.
and Tank Girl.
Oh, Oh, I've been meaning to watch Tank Girl, actually.
I've never seen it. I hear it's not great. Maybe we could cover it. We're definitely not going to exclusively cover horror on here. I mean, really anything B tier or just good movies. Who cares?
Yeah.
Not like anyone's listening anyway.
Yeah, that's also true. I mean, I feel like I liked the director of Tank Girl because
It's a woman. I know that much.
Yeah. I think she did like some sort of art exhibit that I like.
Look at Tanner living in St. Louis, getting to go to cool art exhibits. I live on a mountain.
Nope, this was a different person.
I get to walk outside and there are art exhibits.
Yeah, so I don't know why you're complaining.
Hey, I'm rocking some Four Loko over here.
And I'm drinking a ice cold can of Diet Dr. Pepper, which
Nice.
yeah, maybe we'll get some advertising.
I walked into the liquor store and Godfather 2 was playing on the TV.
Oh.
And it was the scene where you think Marlon Brando's going to come back and then he doesn't. So I said to the guy in the liquor store, I always think Marlon Brando's going to come back here and then he doesn't. He was like, okay. And I said, do you have Four Loko? And he was like, what is that? And then they didn't. So I bought some vodka, some cilantro vodka, and a Monster
Cilantro?
Energy. Yeah.
And that's gonna be your Four Loko.
That's my Four Loko.
Interesting.
Yeah. So before we get into movies, we watched one tonight. It was very fascinating, called Angst. Tanner, did I ever tell you about the Killdozer?
The Killdozer. I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay, so I live in a little town called Granby, Colorado. It's on top of a fucking mountain. There's nothing going on here, really. And, like 15 years ago, this guy built this machine called the Killdozer, which was a bulldozer he'd rigged out with cement and, like, a whole bunch of metal he'd put around it. And he'd put a whole bunch of holes in it for him to shoot out of. And he drove it down, like, the middle of town and destroyed a whole bunch of buildings with it.
Wait.
And he was going to go on, like, a murderous rampage, and then he, like, fell through the floor of a convenience store.
What?
And he got trapped in his machine and killed himself, yeah.
But he actually knocked buildings over before
Yeah, he
killing
knocked
anybody?
buildings over. Yeah, there's video of this on YouTube. Search Granby Killdozer. He never killed anybody. Thankfully, this old dude, he hops in, like, I guess a combine, and he's like, I'm gonna take him down.
Oh,
and so he
shit.
drives his farm equipment at the Killdozer, and the Killdozer just destroys it.
He's got his own Wikipedia page. That means it's legit.
Yeah, there are books written about it. It's
That's insane.
It's very fascinating.
Oh, there's a picture of it. Wow.
Yeah, no, there's, like, go on YouTube and search the Killdozer. It is incredible.
That looks like something that would appear in like a cyberpunk movie, but like
Yeah.
down below where the lower classes are.
Oh. Whew. Too much vodka in my homebrew Four Loko.
That went down well, it sounded like.
Okay, tonight we're talking about Angst.
I believe it's pronounced Angst since it's German, Steven, but
Actually, I think it's Austrian.
oh, it's Austrian?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's also pronounced Angst. But yeah.
Right.
What'd you think
And
of
what
it?
does that mean? That means hate, right?
I think it means fear.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Lahain means hate,
Yeah.
which I'm sure is pronounced some other way. I think for the most part, it was very disturbing and riveting and visceral. But then it kind of has that thing in Psycho where after the murder happens, he's just like, okay, I'm putting this body in a car.
Yeah.
I'm taking it down to the swamp, and now we're watching it go. It's like 15 minutes long. There's really not much going on there, you know?
Well, I think I found this one was more riveting than the Psycho scene. Well,
It was at first. When he finds the corpse and he comes his pants, that was like,
Yeah.
all right.
well,
But
even just when all those like school kids are around him, you know.
yeah, no. When it gets to that part, it's great again.
Oh, okay.
For sure. It's It's just like the build up between here are the murders and here is me dragging all the corpses to the car.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that wasn't as long as I thought it was.
Well, I think that's part of what's fascinating about the movie is that it doesn't really change its pace from beginning to end. You get this guy's horrible actions basically from start to finish.
I definitely think the pacing is pretty consistent. It's methodical in the way it's shown, and it chooses when to speed and slow things up in really interesting ways.
Yeah.
Like when it goes to jump cuts, it's always well chosen. When they go back to the jump cuts for when he's killing the mentally challenged man, it almost is there to serve. Hey, you're watching this movie, and it's not okay. And he's actually looking at the camera then. But it's not like a wink at the camera sort of thing, because you're like, I don't know if this is intentional. But he does it in each of the jump cuts, so I feel like it has to be intentional, because it cuts as soon as he looks at it.
Yeah.
Very odd.
Well, I don't know. We sort of, like, I was undecided on that part. I was almost under the impression that he was mentally challenged, and for me, if that is the case, which again, I don't know if it is, that made it somehow like almost hyper real. I don't know. There's just something greatly unsettling if that's the case, but I don't know if that's the case. And
I hope it's not.
Yeah, well, if it is definitely disturbing. Do you want me to give some background on this film before we go?
Yeah,
further?
we should probably go back. So Angst, as Tanner thinks it's pronounced. I don't really know or care.
I don't think it matters. It's co-written and directed by Gerald Cargill.
Oh, so he directed it as well?
No. The other guy who was the cinematographer, writer, and editor was you're making me pronounce this, Zbigniew Rzybiński, which I'm probably sure I horribly maimed.
No, I think that's how it's said. I mean, if you got Angst right, how could you mess that up?
Well, because that's way more like, I don't know, that almost sounds Polish, and I don't think I can pronounce Polish things. I think me and you both noted that it was Rzybiński's work that we probably noticed the most because of the beautiful cinematography this film has.
And not just that, it's so coherent in the way the shots are composed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cuts on action and a lot of like smash cuts, but it all flows so seamlessly. And you'll only really see it that well done when it's like a true auteur like that, where they're handling every aspect of that process. And even though he doesn't have a director's credit, I still feel like he was so involved there and filmmaking such a collaborative process, it probably just came down to what they wanted to put on paper, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think another thing that we really sort of held on to was the soundtrack, which almost sort of juxtaposes the actions on camera, because it's a really like fast-paced, pulsating electronic soundtrack by Klaus Schulze. But I think we both enjoyed it a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would say.
I mean, it does. You said he was in Tangerine Dream, right?
Yeah.
And it does feel like To Live and Die in L.A., that sorcerer type of score.
Yeah.
Where, if for the most part those movies have a lot more happening, it's not exactly... I don't know. It definitely is an interesting juxtaposition for how slow the movie is.
Yeah. I mean, I think that soundtrack is, like, I'm definitely finding that album after this, because it's...
Yeah.
I mean, that could function on its own as, like, a really good electronic album.
Speaking of which, if anyone listening knows where we can find a copy of the movie Wavelength not on VHS, we'd really appreciate that, because that score is great.
I don't think it's moved from VHS. I don't think it's been on DVD or Blu-ray. I think even the DVDs are like VHS rips.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Like our copy of Slipstream.
Well, I mean, that's
not one to watch.
Yeah.
It's not a movie worth your time.
I mean, that was really upsetting, because it was something that seemed like it was going to be a hidden gem, but all the warning signs kind of told us, oh no, it's not going to be a hidden gem. There's a reason it's hidden. and we just didn't listen and watched it anyway, and we suffered
should've.
because of it.
I mean, it's the Tron director. Mark Hamill's in it. You think it could be good? Bill Paxton, right?
Yeah, Bill Paxton. Like, I thought he could save any movie he was in.
Did you watch The Circle?
No. I think it's your
It's
fault
incredible.
I haven't watched The Circle.
I saw that opening weekend in theaters, and I loved every second of it. The theater was empty the Saturday night of its release, so Brian and I were just like openly mocking it the whole time. It is so funny.
So, getting back to Angst, I don't know if you felt this way, but I thought it was sort of a connecting point between like the new German cinema of like directors like Herzog and Wim Wenders, and like sort of getting into the territory of the new French extremity, which of course No Way just loves this film.
I definitely see this being influential in that, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons we felt it seemed way ahead of its time, both in like how some of the shots functioned and just in, well, like the subject matter was, and how it's presented felt very late.
Well, and I feel there's a lot more substance in this than you're going to find in High Tension or Inside. I mean,
Yeah.
Noah's doing some cool stuff in Irreversible, but I feel like there's a level of thought happening here beyond just shock value.
Yeah. And I think that's why I felt it was sort of a hybrid between the two film movements.
There's so much artistic merit to it, even
Yeah.
though I mean, there's a warning at the start of it when you watch it on Shudder, which I've only seen before Cannibal Ferox. So,
Yeah, and I guess we should mention that it is based on a true story. I haven't really looked to see like what details are the same.
so the text that goes over at the end, that's like, he's sexually attracted to strangling women. It's how he gets his desires or whatever. That, I believe, is the actual psychological evaluation
Okay.
that the real killer went through. And he did actually kill 3 people.
Do you think the beginning sort of documentarian type stuff we get is also that? Or is that
I wouldn't be
totally
surprised if they made some of that up.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's probably close to his actual record. Well, I should say, I loved so the movie opens with this psychopath murdering just a random old lady.
Oh, yeah.
And you get this voiceover from someone who's, I guess, a psychologist or something, and they're just going over his case file. And then as the movie progresses, once he's released from prison, he sort of tells his own story in his own way, but it's the same content. But it's way creepier when he's telling it because he's so calm and collected.
Yeah, and because of that, it just seems... It's like... I think it's one of the most psychopathic films I've seen, just because of how collected he is. It's as if he's simply describing his day-to-day life without any sort of emotion.
And most of the time when you're watching like a movie with a serial killer in it, it's like, oh, they just have to do this, and they don't really let you get into their headspace as to why.
Yeah.
And that always feels kind of childish to me. But in this, it's like, you kind of feel bad for him in a way while he's doing it, more than I do when I watch like A Horrible Way to Die or American Psycho or anything like that, because he seems like, at his core, it's not the person he wants to be. In certain moments, like when he first breaks into the family's houses and everyone's tied up, you see him sitting there, and he's just so sweaty, and I was thinking in my head, like, dude, just leave.
Yeah,
You know?
and he's also pretty repulsed by his actions once he wakes up from the night after killing and raping the young girl, which I thought was interesting because that was another moment where it seemed like he did regret it, and it was just something he had to do.
Then he walked right back upstairs
Yeah.
and came his pants while looking at the dead old lady.
Yeah, I don't know, like, this is probably one of the most interesting character portraits of a psychopath that's been presented in film, I would say. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I definitely do.
I actually haven't seen Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, but I feel like that could be heavily related to this.
So that's kind of similar to this one, where it's like, you see flashes of a real person in there.
Yeah.
But then it's also like you think he's got his shit together, then the next scene the person's just dead.
Oh.
Yeah, Henry's fascinating. It's a good one. I probably prefer this one just because Henry is so low budget. At times I feel like that can be a little detrimental towards it. There are moments where you can tell they kind of had to reshoot things to get it to feature length.
Yeah.
Which you don't really get that in Angst.
Well, I kind of want to know the budget for this film, because it seems like it could be done on a relatively low budget, but there's just so much precision taken in the camera work and, I don't know, the shot composition that I think it raises it.
Oh yeah, the production values I think come across much higher than they actually are because of just some really clever set dressing.
Yeah.
For sure. Like there's a very strong blue tone of the movie, but that's just kind of how they've filled every scene. It's not like any of that's happening with the film stock, really.
Well, I mean, there's not very many locations either, which would sort of lend to the idea that it's lower budget.
And I was kind of disappointed in that at first because I wanted to see this unhinged guy just escalating as he went around town.
Yeah.
But I get why they did it the way they did, and it definitely was the more financially viable option.
Yeah, and I think it also just sort of lends itself to following this guy without any sort of like theatricality to it. Like it's very, like, I think I used the term hyper real earlier, and that's sort of what I would consider it trying to do.
For sure. That was a creepy one. Let me re-soup this Four Loko some. Give me a second.
Okay.
Ugh. Ugh. So we have a family friend coming tomorrow. And I was not told about this until Thursday.
That really messed with our production schedule.
It did, yeah. We were supposed to be recording this tomorrow. So I actually have to stay up all night cleaning because my mom is conveniently coming back on the day that this person is arriving. And my dad drove to Denver for the night to pick her up.
Even if you clean, you're gonna get in trouble for something not being cleaned.
Oh, for sure. At least I tried, you know, A for effort.
Do you want to move on to our next film, or I don't know which one you want to do next? You want to do Pin, just because that's been my favorite recently?
Sure, let's do that. So the other day, Tanner texted me. He said, "Steven, I'm watching a movie, I'm 15 minutes in, and a lady is having sex with a mannequin in front of her son. Should I wait to watch this movie with you?" And I was like, all right. And we watched the movie, and that was the movie it was. It's called Pin.
Yeah, it's technically Canucksploitation, because it's a direct-to-video Canadian film, but it felt like it had higher ambitions than that. I don't know if you felt the same way, but it was like actually pretty intricate despite its like ridiculous premise.
It took itself very seriously.
Yeah, it was like a legit drama.
Too much? I don't know. It had the bald guy from Lost, John Locke or whatever.
Yeah.
And he has a mannequin named Pin that he uses to explain things to his children, like sex and such, by doing ventriloquy. Is that ventriloquizing it?
Ventriloquism?
Yeah. And then he dies, and so his son starts talking through his mouth. And
yeah,
I don't know.
But he doesn't realize it. He like the son Leon, who's played by David Hewlett, he thinks that Pin is like a living being, and he does this sort of ventriloquism thing totally unknowing, even though it's like definitely some sort of split personality thing going on. Strangely enough, it's like another sort of Psycho movie.
Yeah, no, it's very similar to that, in where they kind of want you to think there's a twist happening where Pin is actually alive.
Which I wanted more than anything in the world.
Well, I was like, there's no way they're going to do that, and then they didn't, which was nice. They kind of spoil it with the opening.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's mostly the first, I don't know, maybe the first half of it that's really, really sort of grabbed me, just because of how it's just so weird. Like, and the end's weird, but it's not like as weird, because in this beginning you get this classic Canadian direct-to-video thing of kids doing like weird cursing, having weird sexual things.
That was all really fascinating. And then when they grew up, it was like, I don't know, is this going to be as weird as it started? And then it wasn't really, you know. Yeah. Okay, he scared his aunt to death with his mannequin.
I guess when he kills his sister's boyfriend, it's a little...
He doesn't actually die, though.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he didn't die.
He's just alive, and then everyone's cool with it. Like, I don't think anyone presses charges.
Like, so technically, he didn't, like, kill hardly anyone.
Except for the aunt, which he only scared to death.
Yeah. He didn't do that with his hands or anything. And technically, Penn did it. Because it's a split personality. Yeah, I know. So some background for this film. It was directed by Sandor Stern. I am not familiar with any other work he's done. I think he was mostly a television director. The more interesting part is that it's based on a novel by the guy who wrote Child's Play.
Not only Child's Play, also The Devil's Advocate, starring everyone's favorite movie star, Al Pacino, and Keanu Reeves.
I didn't know this one.
You don't know that movie?
Well, no, I didn't know he also wrote that book.
I think he sees Charlize Theron's vagina in it.
Oh.
Could be wrong.
I don't know what to say to that. I don't know. I'd recommend this film. I think it's definitely an experience to have. It's like hard to like say why I enjoyed it because it's technically like probably pretty bad.
It's not like that bad though. It's like it's better than your average Hallmark movie, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, like I'd say it's better than in most Canucksploitation movies as well.
What have you seen? I don't know how familiar I am with this genre.
I watched all of Kathy's Curse after that Best of the Worst episode.
Was that good?
I mean, it's all right. It's pretty bad though. It's definitely.
Is that on Shudder?
It's on somewhere. It may be Amazon. It has like the enjoyability of like kids with filthy mouths, but it doesn't have like the more nuanced, weird, uncanny stuff that Penn has.
What was that Will Ferrell thing where he was like cussing at a kid? You know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It was like, I remember seeing it on the news when I was a kid, and people were like, this is unacceptable.
Will Ferrell cussing at a kid.
Yeah, and then the kid swears too. It's like a little short film or something.
Oh, is it him cussing at a baby?
No, it's like a 2-year-old.
Well, then I have no idea.
This is great content. All right. Okay, I'm going to do some string theory here. Are we ready?
Some what?
Will Ferrell is a comedian. So is Seth Rogen. The guy who's the DP on the last, 10 Seth Rogen movies did a movie called Chaos in 2005 that I stumbled across. And I kind of want to see because I hear it is one of the most tasteless, awful things ever made.
Uh-huh.
It's like The Last House on the Left, but there's no punishment for the bad guys.
Uh-huh.
And I hated The Last House on the Left, so I hear it's just obscenely brutal and gross. And I think maybe we should watch it, but also maybe not. I don't know.
You talking about Chaos still?
Yeah.
Is this with Jason Statham?
No. It's from 2005. Nobody's watched it. I'll link it. There we go. It's directed by David DeFalco, who's a WWE guy.
Oh.
Here we go. Sending it to chat.
Is Sage Stallone related to my favorite Stallone?
He's in Rocky 5. I think he is.
Oh, I think you're right. Oh, he died. Only age 36. Wow.
Remember when Mike Tyson's daughter died, and then everyone was like, yeah, it's okay that you're a rapist?
Hey, he was acquitted.
Was he?
I think. No. He was in prison. Never mind.
Yeah, I think he went to jail.
I'm not going to apologize for Mike Tyson on this podcast.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm 100% sure. So, do you have anything else to say about Penn? Should we move on?
I think you need to give it a proper wrap-up, because you enjoyed it more than I did. I think I kind of fell asleep during it. I'm not going to lie.
How dare you?
I go to work at 3 a.m.
I guess that's a good point.
Just throwing that out there.
Well, I don't know. I'd just give Penn a hard recommendation, just because it's like low budget direct to video, like should be badness, but for some reason it's captivating. And
Its ambitions are far higher than what it is, you know? Like, it kind of nails that in a way that keeps you from hating it. You're like, all right,
yeah, well, I mean,
they made this.
It's like partially successful at some points because it's like genuinely unsettling and in more than just like a gore or shock value kind of way.
I think the shock value is the best stuff in it.
Yeah, I guess that's. I guess the scene where she's having sex with the mannequin is.
In front of a small child.
Yeah, I mean that's classic Canucksploitation.
I'll agree there. Yeah, no, it's worth watching for the first 15 minutes alone.
Yeah, I'd say that. I'd say watch the first 15 minutes, and if you're intrigued, then watch more.
But if you're like, this lady just had sex with a mannequin, and I didn't really want to see that, maybe don't keep watching.
Yeah. Oh, also, big shout out to Jonathan Banks for having a creepy voice as the mannequin.
Yeah, that guy's great. I should finish Better Call Saul, but also not.
You should just watch Free Jack instead.
Okay, let's do it.
Oh no, I don't want to see it again. Alright, you want to move on to one of our final films that we'll discuss today?
Yes. Spoilers for the film Veronica, direct to Netflix.
Well, maybe a week ago, right? We watched Veronica, which was recently placed on Netflix. Supposedly based on a real police report of it wasn't a murder, but it was like almost a murder. And then the young girl killed herself.
No, I don't think she killed herself. She died of, like, weird internal wounds, right?
Yeah, I don't remember how the true story wound up.
Okay, yeah, I really only know the movie.
Yeah.
And what that presented at me, but according to the movie, her, like, neck got snapped by being possessed or something. Spoilers for the film Veronica, direct to Netflix.
Well, I think everybody knows she's possessed, or they wouldn't watch the film, but, oh, you're more talking about the neck snapping.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of what I was... Spoilers for the movie. I mean, it kind of shows it in the opening, I guess.
Yeah. So this was like...
Speaking of which, I was just going to say that detective at the start and end of the movie has such a cool look, and they, like, don't use him at all. I wish the movie was about him. And
No.
it, like, went back and forth or something.
That opening had me, like, super stoked, because I thought it was going to be, like... Maniac Cop 2 or something, except with like The Exorcist instead of bad Maniac Cop movie, but we'd still get like a Robert Davi type figure who's just like a cool cop. But then that didn't happen, which seems like a shame.
Because that guy he genuinely had like a really cool look. I would like to see more of him.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably not going to like seek out his filmography, but if he ends up in another horror movie, maybe I'll watch it.
I'm seeking out his filmography.
All right, well, then I'll inevitably end up seeing it when you send me a file called Secret Surprise and it's Homie Spalomi.
Yeah, this guy is.
Let's talk.
This guy.
Fuck Veronica. Let's talk about Homie Spalomi.
I don't want to
Tanner
talk
sent me a
about it.
file like a week ago called Homie Spalomi. And I was like, what is this?
Well, I didn't title the file
It was
that.
titled Secret Surprise, so I thought he'd found me something like really obscure, something really cool.
I did.
And-
Well, it was obscure. It wasn't cool.
No, it's definitely obscure because my one Letterboxd review for it is the only review for the movie. This film stars Donald Faison, and it is the most racist piece of shit I've watched ever. I would say since Birth of a Nation, but that movie's not a piece of shit. It's actually got some excellent filmmaking happening there.
Well-
Shout out to D.W. Griffith, first man to get a movie screen in the White House, am I right?
Well, and he tried, like, D.W. Griffith tried to right his wrongs, even if
Did
he
he?
did it. Yeah. He made, like, Broken Blossoms, which was also racist, but he tried not to be racist and had an interracial relationship in it. But that also...
That's pretty progressive.
But it involved a guy in yellow face and a lot of like racial stereotyping still involved.
Well, Yellowface was cool until like 1975. Look at Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
No. It was cool until 1991 when Piper Laurie did it in Twin Peaks.
That is, oh shit, I forgot. It was cool until 2000 because we had John Leguizamo doing it in The Pest.
Oh, well, let me take you further and say it was nicer even until I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry, which has some white comedian doing yellowface.
I stumbled across that on Letterboxd today, and all the reviews were like, "This is the most homophobic, racist, misogynistic piece of shit I have ever watched."
Oh, it is horrible.
Is it really?
Yeah, I don't remember
Who's
why
in
I
that?
saw it.
Is it Kevin James and Adam Sandler?
Yeah, like
That is never a good combination.
Well, I don't know how it went wrong. No, God, who was in yellowface for that?
If you want to get perspective on Tanner here, his family watches Paul Blart Mall Cop every Thanksgiving.
It's ironic though. It's not like
No, it's not.
Yes,
No,
it
it's
is.
you like it.
Well, I mean, I like it in like a. We watch this every Black Friday because it's a Black Friday movie, quote unquote.
I mean, I guess since it's like the lowest of the low tier Die Hard parody, and it's focused on Black Friday, and you're watching it on Black Friday, but you also watch Die Hard every Christmas, it's almost acceptable.
Yeah, it sort of fits in with like that post-holiday depression.
I don't know if I'm that depressed. The only reason I've seen that movie is because Mrs. Liebarger would show that. She'd show that, and she'd show Happy Face 2, and she'd show
Happy Face.
that movie.
Oh,
No, Happy Feet 2.
Oh.
There we go. Shout out to George Miller.
I think
I don't really know how to feel about you, if I'm being honest.
I think Fury Road made him seem like less of a hack fraud, but he was getting there.
He's got some real bad movies.
Yeah.
Fury Road's dope, though.
I won't defend him too much. I think I'm gonna go see the Road Warrior in theaters pretty soon, actually. So that's
You
that's
should
pretty
do
exciting.
that. I'm jealous.
Oh, they're also showing, get this, Deep Red.
Hell yeah.
I don't know why, but that's being shown at the theater across the street from me.
I have that Blu-ray, and it's sitting in front of my TV, and I keep looking at it, and I'm like, I should watch this. But then I'm like, I'm saving this.
Nah, just throw it on.
Throw it on. All right,
Yeah.
I'll do it eventually. You
All
know
right.
what giallo I watched recently? I watched, oh fuck, what is the name? I kept getting the name wrong. Is it What Have You Done to Solange? What's the name of that movie?
Yeah, I think that's
What
the
Have You
title.
Done with Solange? Dude, it is so good.
That's on Shudder, right?
Yeah, it's on Shudder. It is some of the most gorgeous cinematography I've ever seen, and the Ennio Morricone score is wonderful. That's a movie worth watching. It's dope.
Yeah.
You get to see ladies get stabbed in the vagina with knives.
Just beautiful.
Yeah, so beautiful. Remember when Seven didn't show that shit? Well, this movie does.
Man, David Fincher is such a hack fraud.
No, he's not.
I know, I'm just kidding.
You can shit on everyone as much as like Nolan. There's an argument to be made there. Spielberg even maybe. Fincher really hasn't let us down.
Well, I think Spielberg just recently is like a total hack fraud. Like,
Can you imagine how infinitely cooler his career would be if he'd stuck with Dean Cundey from Jurassic Park onwards instead of Janis Kaminski?
Or if he just stopped trying to make like affecting movies like Schindler's List every year.
Well, he both tries to make one of those every year, and then he tries to like recapture the magic of Indiana Jones and Close Encounters every year, and it doesn't really work. Which is a shame because like everything Spielberg did outside of 1942, which I've never seen, up through Schindler's List and maybe The Color Purple, I love.
Yeah.
But then, ugh.
I can feel that. It's a bit too, like, sweet for me some of the time.
Yeah, you were not a fan of Close Encounters, right?
Yeah, I just, like, I really liked it, but I think it's just more of my interest in the paranormal that made me not like it as much.
What's your issue with the way it handles the paranormal? Like, it's tackling conspiracy theories, all sorts of goodness.
I guess the aliens were just too nice, even though they kind of messed things up. Like, I don't know. Like when what's his face gets burned really badly because he's like close to the craft or whatever. That seemed like realistic, but I don't know about like playing music to communicate. Like, I don't know.
When they're in the desert and they learned the chant, like they learned that from the aliens, right?
Yeah. No, I know this. I think that's like too optimistic of a view. It's more of a personal thing. I just think it's like too cutesy.
I drove down the mountain to go see it in theaters, and I was just bawling the last like 12 minutes of that movie.
Maybe I should have seen it in theaters.
I told you to.
Well,
You fuck. I tell you to
around.
go see the right movies in theaters, and then you go see what? You see It. You go see It in theaters.
Well,
Great.
I don't like going to the theater by myself, and I can't convince my friends to go to a lot of the movies I'd like to see. So
Claire wouldn't have gone to see Close Encounters with you?
Well, Close Encounters is different. That's like, I don't know where that was showing.
It definitely was showing.
You've got a
Guarantee
draft
it.
house near you, man. Like, I don't have that.
It's 2 hours away, Tanner.
Well, that's where you went to see Close Encounters, wasn't it?
Right.
Well, exactly.
Because I'm dedicated. Also, I've
have
seen
to
that
drive
movie like
fo-
50 times. It's great.
I'd have to drive 4 hours to the nearest one.
No, they're definitely showing it. Like it got a wide release because it was the brand new 4K restoration. Like they were doing a big thing with it.
I don't know. I didn't see it anywhere, but this could be on me. This could be on
I
me.
think it's on you.
All right.
Also, I don't know what cut you saw. The cut they showed for the 4K restoration was the ultimate cut, which is a combination of the theatrical and the director's cut. Trims all the fat, but also has the best moments in there. So,
I think I may have seen the director's cut.
speaking of cuts, wait, we haven't covered The Ritual yet. We never finished talking about Veronica.
I feel like it's getting too
Okay.
late.
All right, we'll knock these out real quick, and then we'll do the closing.
Okay.
All right, Veronica.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. It's not great, but we enjoyed it quite a bit. It has a nice color space. It's very competently made. It's by the director of the Wreck films. I've only seen Wreck 3, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm just gonna keep talking so Tanner can't get his piece in.
Well, okay. So it's basically, if you're thinking of The Exorcist, but maybe made in Spain, then you've got kind of Veronica, but also
Kind of.
Veronica isn't quite as I don't know, it strikes a weird balance between like a Blumhouse film and like a genuine more artful horror film.
It's got a really cool monster design
Yeah, it
that
does
they
have
make good
that.
use of. There's some really creepy stuff that's taken directly from the true story. Like there's this like mold on these beds. That's really freaky.
Yeah, I was hoping that was true, and I think it is, because I don't know if those pictures
Yeah.
in the end were from the crime scene, but
I think they were. I don't
Yeah.
really know.
there's a lot of more understated horror in this, and I know a lot of people complain about it not being scary, but I mean, it's not really one of those films that's like out to scare your pants off. It's
Well, I think the issue there is that people are saying it's so scary people are shutting it off.
yeah.
Like there's a stigma around that Netflix is using to build hype. Like there are a whole bunch of articles written about it. Like people genuinely can't finish this movie, but there's really nothing in it that's that. Like I wasn't really creeped out at all.
Yeah, I guess it could be I think we're a bit jaded, but there is like a lot of tension being built, and I don't think it lands like most people expect.
No, I don't think
yeah.
it does at all. Yeah, there's a kind of dumb twist that isn't as dumb as it could be, but it's like,
Well, it's like I guess it had to do that to at least be marginally related to the police report.
Well, I mean, they could have just built that from the start, though, because every movie since the first Insidious has just been, it's not the house that's possessed, It's your son.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that was kind of lame. I don't know, I liked the concept behind it of her trying to protect her younger siblings.
Yeah, that was cool. That little kid with the weird eyes was so cute.
Yeah, yeah, and all the main actors are like pretty young and new, but
And
they're
they
all
give
really
very good
competent.
performances.
Yeah, and Anna Torrent, another competent child actress, is now an adult actress, and she plays the mother.
You're trying to act like there aren't 50 years between these roles.
Well, I know, but I think most people know Anna Torrent from The Spirit of the Beehive, though.
Which you watched in Mrs. Craig's class, who was my seminar teacher, who did not have any room for my horseplay.
Meanwhile, you were just getting detention or whatever.
I don't really know. I remember one time she sent me to the hallway because I was being too noisy, and then I was playing solitaire on my iPod because I'd gotten my phone taken away the week before.
Yeah.
And she walked out to tell me I could come back in, and she saw me playing solitaire, and she confiscated my iPod, and she was like, "I'm taking this to the principal." And I said, "Oh, I wasn't playing solitaire. I just had it open before, and I was opening my iPod to change the song." And she didn't believe me, but she was like, "Man, this kid has nothing left to lose, does he?" And then she gave it back to me, so shout out to her for that.
Yeah. Wasn't all bad. So what's your final verdict on Veronica? And then we can move on to The Ritual.
3 out of 5 stars, I guess. I don't know. Should we really be putting numbers on things? Maybe not. Who cares?
Yeah.
I didn't like, it didn't really deliver for me on the levels that a horror movie is, but it delivered for me in, like, I'm watching a horror movie and I'm mostly paying attention to it, and it's just kind of fun.
Yeah.
And that's all I really needed, which maybe, I don't know, it's kind of based on a true story. A real girl died, so
Yeah, I pretty
don't
much
know.
fell in the same camp. I think I was expecting something a little more, like, artistically impressive, like The Exorcist, but it really didn't get to that level, even though it's like
I mean,
a
The
competent
Exorcist is
film.
one of the greatest films ever made, so I didn't really go into it expecting that.
I mean, I know, but I thought it would be like going for those ambitions, but I don't think it had those. Like, I think it was. I went into it thinking it was gonna try to be more of an art horror film, but
yeah, I can see
it
that, but
wasn't.
it didn't.
Yeah. So but like, that's not to say it's not enjoyable. It was an alright movie to watch.
But on to other Netflix original horror movies. We are big fans of The Ritual, which has a lot of people complaining that it's redundant of movies like The Descent. I don't know. If something's good, why not copy it for the first third of your movie and then do your own thing? I have never seen a movie with a third act quite like the third act of The Ritual. I liked it so much I watched it twice in the same weekend. I think it's great. I don't get the hate.
Yeah, I don't get the hate either. Like, I can imagine having like a more like neutral opinion, but that doesn't seem to happen as much as like outright hate,
It's really a love it or hate it movie from what I've seen.
which is weird cuz I don't know. I don't think I think I'd fall on the like it's an enjoyable movie, but I don't think I liked it quite as much as you did.
If I recall, you said you wanted to rate it 4.5 out of 5 stars. You were close to that.
See, after sitting on it, I don't actually remember it that well, so I don't know what that says about it.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but I think I was reminded of like Cold Prey. Have you seen that one?
The name's familiar. What's that about?
It's like the Norwegian movie with a group of friends also hiking, and they wind up in like an abandoned hotel, and there's like a crazy hermit hobo man tracking them down.
You know what? I stumbled across this the other day, and I saw that you had it at 2.5 stars, and I said, I don't need to bother with this.
Oh, well, 2.5's kind of low, I think. I think I may have lowballed it.
Is there a cool monster in it?
The design could have been better to me. I think it also could have had, like, I think The Ritual gets the intensity of it more. The monster in The Ritual serves like a similar purpose, but I think just the design went way better.
You know what's funny is when you said the name Cold Prey, this movie I saw on Netflix a couple years ago called Flukt came to mind, which I believe was
Flukt?
Norwegian, and it's about a girl who fights some Vikings with a bow and arrow. And I remember at the time thinking, hey, that's pretty cool. It reminded me of the 2013 Tomb Raider reboot. And it turns out that that movie is directed by the same person who directed Cold Prey.
Oh, yeah.
And they went on to direct the Tomb Raider movie, which looks abysmal.
Like the one that just came out?
The one that just came out, yeah.
Oh. I didn't know that one. That's disappointing. I don't know. Cold Prey has a pretty big following, though, and it had one or
Does it?
two... Yeah, it had one or two sequels.
Did it really?
Yeah, it's a trilogy. I don't know. The rip on Shudder isn't that great. I felt like it could have looked better.
Then I'm going to watch it anyway. Thank you very much.
Well, it's kind of like early digital, which isn't... It doesn't...
I mean, is it actually
great.
early digital, or does it just look like shit?
I don't know. You'll have to make your own judgment based on the Shudder rip.
I can just Google this. All right, here we go. I'm in.
All right.
Oh, so in whatever language this was shot in, it's called Fritfilt.
Fritfilt? Oh,
Sure.
You mean the title.
Technical specs. 2.35 by 1, eh? It was shot on both 16mm and 35mm. Oh, no, it was shot on 16mm and then blown up to 35mm. Alright, so I might actually go out of my way to find this movie in good quality.
Would that make it look bad?
16mm would make it look grainy, but I mean, you could scan that up to probably like 12K or something. I mean, it looks good.
Yeah, Shudder's rip must have been horrible. Like
I mean, it's
may have
probably
been
just a DVD
may have been
copy.
a DVD, yeah.
And maybe the movie's only available on DVD. I'm sure there's a DCP out there, but you know, I'm looking at these images from it, and it doesn't look really fun to me. But 2 sequels is a lot for...
You want to say more about The Ritual?
The Ritual is a movie about... But I don't really want to say. It's got a really cool monster design. The lead performance by Rafe Spall I found to be very endearing, even if the first thing Emily said was, he's not handsome. I disagree. I think he's an alright looking dude. He's a son of Timothy Spall, who you know as the Rat Man from the Harry Potter films.
So he definitely looks better than his dad.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's alright looking, you know?
Yeah, I'm looking at this shot of him here, and he looks
Not
pretty
gorgeous, but good enough. Yeah. Yeah. He's great. He's dealing with some PTSD from not defending his friend in a liquor store, which the rest of his friends give him shit for, but the stupid cripple who didn't really defend him didn't really do any better. I don't think he wouldn't have gone out of his way, which is kind of part of the irony of him, I think. Some of the characters can be a bit annoying, but I think they develop in interesting ways for the most part. And again, it has one of the coolest monsters I've ever seen in a movie, and the third act is just awesome. It's on Netflix. Give it a watch. I think it's great. Half the people I've gotten to watch it have loved it. The other half have said it was lame. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Sort of like comparing it to... Oh, what were we comparing it to earlier? Help me out here.
The Descent. I mean, it's
Descent.
Beat for beat just The Descent.
Yeah.
I don't think that's so bad.
But what I think it handled better than The Descent did, and The Descent is a masterpiece to me in a lot of ways. This handled his PTSD in an extremely creative way as the movie went along.
Those shots of the liquor store in the forest are so brilliantly composed.
Yeah.
And this movie's a feature-length directorial debut. I just find it so impressive on those levels.
Yeah. I mean, there's, the vision behind that is pretty impressive to see translated to screen. So I was also very impressed. And did we decide this guy has done, things for, VHS, for, the series VHS?
Yeah, he's done VHS. He did another movie that had a couple short films in it. And I just decided what our movies for next week are. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Starting out the night,
Okay.
we're going to watch Dracula 2000.
Dracula 2000. Is that Argento?
Blair Witch 2, The Book of Shadows.
Why are we doing this?
And Ghosts of Mars.
I think Ghost of Mars is going to somehow be the highlight.
Oh, Ghost of Mars it's genuinely very fun. It's gonna be a blast. Granted, I haven't seen it since I was probably 12, but Dracula 2000. It's not the Argento one with Rutger Hauer, which I hear is almost unwatchable. Also, Dario Argento films his daughter naked in it, which is like, I don't know how I feel about that.
They're Italian, so I think it's okay.
Is it? Is that how that works there?
No, I don't want to offend any Italians either.
Okay.
I don't think that's how it works.
I don't either.
I don't know. This has a pretty good cast. Johnny Lee Miller. It's got Sick Boy. It's got Jennifer Esposito of Master of Disguise fame.
I feel bad for her.
What happens there?
That's an embarrassing role. I don't know what happened after that. Weinstein probably blacklisted her.
Oh, no. She's been relegated to NCIS.
Oh, this is by the director of Drive Angry? Hell yeah.
Which one is?
Dracula 2000.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Have you seen Drive Angry?
I have not.
It is very fun.
But I've seen the clip from it where someone's yelling at Amber Heard, but it's not Nick Cage.
Oh, it's Billy Burke would be my guess.
Ah, yeah, because we were talking about Billy Burke at some point or another.
I believe there's a scene where William Fichtner is riding on top of a CG semi that's crashing, and Celebrate Good Times Come On is playing.
Well, we gotta watch that. You know what?
Yeah.
I kind of want to discuss in this podcast is Jason X. If
oh,
we
hell
can
yeah.
ever get
sure.
to that.
Well, I think we'd have to do the entire series to get to that, though, you know?
No. Jason X is its own thing. It's just Alien, except it's Jason.
Well, it's also just Leprechaun 4 in space.
Except it's Jason.
Yeah. Christopher Walken was in Man on Fire?
Is that Denzel Washington?
It's a Tony Scott movie that's just Max Payne 3, yeah.
Yeah. Just Max Payne 3. That's also true.
I mean, Max Payne 3 came later, so I can't really discredit the movie by Max Payne 3 being the same thing.
Well, and also Man on Fire is a remake, I believe.
Yes. Although the director Tony Scott was chosen to direct the original and turn it down.
Who did the original?
I have no idea. I don't really think it's worth watching. All right, well, that wraps up the first episode of Horror Boys. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of post-production to be doing.
Wait. Time out. Okay, so Man on Fire, the original, has Joe Pesci, Jonathan Pryce. It's got Scott Glenn in it, and you dare say this is probably not worth watching?
Well, I didn't know it had that cast.
Scott Glenn, Steven. You dare disrespect Scott Glenn like that?
No, I love Scott Glenn.
How
what are
dare
you talking about? But who's the director? That's how we'll know. It's by the director of Harrison's Flowers.
French-Italian guy. Harrison's
None
Flowers.
of these movies are familiar to me, so they're automatically bad.
Well, they're also all foreign.
Let me read this review for Harrison's Flowers. Dał sam pet, żywekshi samo dał kontram butthurt spruski 0.5 out of 5 rezenszki i na solidine 7 out of 10 dost dobry pozniaw glumaka glakoma i na duże dobra produkcja I prikaz rata i grosam Call of Duty poznam. That sounds good to you?
It doesn't sound great, but it's got a critic score of 50 and an audience score of 75. So how bad could it be? Pretty bad.
I don't know if you know this. Those aren't good numbers, Danner.
Yeah, I don't know. I've liked things worse than that. It's got Brendan Gleeson in it.
Why does Andy McDowell look so familiar to me?
Groundhog Day.
That's it? That's the only thing?
That's all I can
Hudson
think of.
Hawk. Hudson Hawk's underappreciated. It's not good, but it's underappreciated. You know what? You know what it is? It's because I always think this lady is Demi Moore.
Yeah. She's nowhere near as cute as Demi Moore. She was somehow super cute in that horrible Dan Aykroyd directed film.
Right. What's that one called? A Few Good Men, yeah. Terrible movie, but she's cute in it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the first episode of Horror Boys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your likes, criticisms, and subscriptions on my Bluetooth page. Tanner, do you have anything you want to plug?
I don't really have anything I want to plug. Just want you guys to give us any sort of criticism, any sort of feedback you possibly can. We just want to know if we're doing everything right or if we could do anything better. And also, you can follow both of us on Letterboxd if you want to see what we're watching in real time. I am not Fox Mulder on Letterboxd, and Steven is Steinblogger, correct?
Yeah, and I'll link those somewhere. That'll happen.
Yeah, okay.
And I just wanted to say thank y'all. Tanner and I are going to be starting a Patreon. We're really hoping to just be able to retire on this. We're hoping to get up to $30,000 a month within the first year. So if you guys could just help us out there, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you. We won't really be having any premium episodes because we don't have time for that sort of thing until we hit $30,000 a month. But once we hit $30,000 a month, we will be releasing 2 episodes a week for everyone, not just premium subscribers. Thank you.
Yes, this is absolutely true.